You know that feeling, right? That constant pressure to stand out, whether in school or starting your career. But how do you go from just scrambling to finish the next assignment to actually building a voice that has a real lasting impact? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today. I mean, this just says it all, doesn't it? The academic and professional worlds can feel like you're on a treadmill you can't get off of. There's always another quiz, another project, another deadline breathing down your neck. It's an environment that basically forces you to think short term. But what if there's a better way to cut through all that noise? All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the trap we all fall into. Then we'll introduce this really cool concept called the intent horizon. We'll see how it works in the real world. And then, and this is the best part, we'll give you the actual tools to build your own. Finally, we'll look at the payoff and give you one simple, clear first step. Okay, so let's dive right into the problem, what I like to call the pressure cooker. This is that constant, relentless rush for immediate results, that feeling that you have to grab attention right now, today, on this one thing. And when you're under that kind of pressure, it's just so tempting to reach for the trendy buzzword or that super dramatic example, right? You know, the quick hack that'll score you points now. But here's the thing. Those choices, they burn really hot and then they just fizzle out. They don't build anything that lasts. They definitely don't pay compound interest on your voice. So what's the alternative? Well, it's this concept called the intent horizon. Think of it as your own personal GPS, your long-term navigational tool for cutting through all that weekly chaos and actually building something that matters. And at its core, this is what it's all about. It's not some vague, fuzzy goal. It's a practical strength you can build. It's the ability to know why you're doing what you're doing and to make sure all those little daily actions are all pointing in that exact same direction, even when things get totally crazy. Okay. This is where the idea gets really tangible. Let's think about this in a few ways. An intent horizon is like a North Star, right? It's always there to guide you. Or it's like putting a destination pin on a campus map. You still have to navigate all the sidewalks and turns, but you know exactly where you're headed. And I absolutely love this last one. It's a savings plan for your voice, where all these small, consistent deposits create huge value over time. Now, this part is absolutely crucial because we need to be clear on what this isn't. It's not some dramatic, rigid manifesto you have to swear by. And it's definitely not a personality test. Think of it more like a flexible compass. It's a small set of commitments that help you become reliable, especially when you're stressed. It's all about being a consistent version of yourself, not locking yourself into a plan that you can never, ever change. Okay, theory is great, but what does this actually look like day to day? Let's check out how this whole concept actually works in the real world with a few quick stories. So take a look at these three. May's goal is super specific, so her action is simple and totally repeatable. Da Wei wants his big idea to be understood by anyone, so he actually practices telling it in 3 different ways. And Priya, she knows her internship is going to demand efficiency, so she installs a simple rule for herself. Ask by sentence 2. See the pattern? In every single case, a clear long-term goal leads to a small, consistent daily action. All right, this all sounds great, you might be thinking, but how do I actually do it? So let's get super practical and break down the toolkit for building your very own intent horizon. Honestly, it really just boils down to these 3 things. First, you need your star. That's your one anchor sentence. Second, you need a few simple rules that make your star audible in your actions. And third, and this is key, you need the receipts. This is about collecting actual visible proof that you're on track. It's how you turn a vague hope into something you can actually see and measure. And this is just brilliant because it shows you how to make it real. You don't just hope it happens, you literally put it on the calendar. You set your North Star now. Then every week you practice one anchor habit. Every couple of weeks you test a new technique. Every month, you do a check-in. You even plan for how you're going to stress test your habits during crunch time, like midterms. This turns a big, lofty goal into a totally manageable semester-long project. So, why go through all this trouble? Well, the payoff is huge, and it all comes down to the power of coherence. That's what happens when your actions consistently add up over time. I want you to just let that sink in for a second. We always think of confidence as something we have to project. Like we're putting on a performance. But this suggests that real, deep confidence isn't about being flashy. It's a quiet side effect that just happens when you know your actions are lining up with your purpose. It's earned, not performed. And when you build that coherence, amazing things start to happen. You start sounding more persuasive without even trying. just by accident, because your choices aren't fighting each other anymore. People learn they can rely on you, and you're no longer just trying to be the loudest person in the room. You become the steadiest. And that is what builds a reputation people really trust. So where in the world do you begin? Look, forget about some grand 5-year plan for a moment. Let's just focus on one simple, powerful first step you can take this week. Here it is, your 1-week challenge. That's it. Just 12 words for your star. One tiny, audible rule. Practice it for 7 days. Then on Friday, capture one tiny piece of proof that it's working. And then you decide, do you want to keep it or change it for next week? It's really that simple. This isn't about perfection. It's just about starting the cycle. And that brings us to the final question, the one that's really just for you. Forget everything else for a second and just think about this. What is the one thing you want your communication to consistently achieve? What's the point of it all for you? What is your 12-word North Star? Because answering that, well, that's the beginning of everything.